Hi and welcome back to another episode of Booked and Busy. In today's episode we're going to be doing a little bit of a reading vlog, getting through some of the books on my January TBR. Today is Monday the 13th and I've already finished one book on my TBR, which was The Score by Elle Kennedy. So I want to do a little recap on that book, just to talk about it before I get into the next one. This story follows Dean and Allie, which are some of the characters in two of her other books in the off-campus series. Allie is Hannah's best friend, and Hannah's dating Garrett, and that's the first couple we see in the first book. Dean is Garrett's roommate slash friend slash teammate. They all play hockey together. And pretty much Allie had just gotten out of a bad relationship, and Dean is a player. And pretty much what happens is Allie needed a place to go, and Hannah was not around. So she ended up staying at Garrett's house, which is Garrett, Dean, Logan, and Tucker. And Tucker was supposed to be home. Logan and Garrett were out. And so it was just her and Dean. And pretty much they ended up hooking up, which is like the first thing that pretty much happens in the book. And from there, he's kind of like obsessed with her, and he can't get her out of like his mind. So he's like going about his day, and he's like thinking about her, and like that's the only thing he can think about. And him being like a major player and like always hooking up with people, it's kind of weird for him to have like that kind of connection with someone, and it's catching him off guard too. But honestly, it was like such a good book. Out of the 3 books that I've read from this off-campus series so far, this one is definitely the spiciest. I want to say the variety of spice is a little bit more intense than in the other 2. I feel like the first book with Garrett and Hannah, you kind of see friends to lovers, and that one was really cutesy, and I feel like they had a really good relationship going on before they actually started dating. For this one, it was definitely just a hookup that turned into more, and it was actually so much more intense with the spice than I expected. If I were to rate this book, I would definitely say it is a 3.75. I did enjoy this book a lot. The spice level for this one was definitely higher than the first 2 books. I would say this one is definitely a 3.75, possibly a 4 for me. Again, my scale is not that high. I haven't read a lot of spicy romance. So that could possibly change in the future depending on how other books mellow out on my 5-star rating. But for right now, I'm going to give it a 3.75 on the spice meter. Overall, I really thought that it was a really great read. I'm really loving the off-campus series. Honestly, I am kind of excited for the next book because the end of The Score ended off with something that is going to be shown in the next book with Tucker. And I'm really excited to see that one because it was kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? So we're going to be seeing a little bit more of these characters. I'm definitely going to be starting this book possibly next month. I don't think I'm going to get to it this month because I have a bunch of other books I want to read in January, but stay tuned because I probably will be finishing the off-campus series. There is the next book with Tucker, and then after that I think there is kind of like a full recap of all 4 relationships, but in the future. I think that's what I'm getting from the vibes of the cover. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I think I'm definitely going to be finishing the off-campus series. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to be reading on my January TBR is called One Night with Him by C.D. Rees. I started this book last night on my phone. I was up super late because I just couldn't sleep. So I started another book. This one, as I mentioned in my January TBR video, is a spicy romance. I've read a lot of this book already, actually. I think I read 25%. Pretty much it follows the story of Monica and Jonathan. Monica is a musician and Jonathan is a bazillionaire who owns a bunch of hotel chains. And her being a musician, she's kind of broke, so she has a side job working as a waitress. So pretty much how they met was she was waitressing and she was waiting his table at his like hotel chain on the rooftop bar, and she spilled her tray of drinks on him and his friends, and her manager fired her on the spot. So she's like, whatever, F this, I'm getting out of here. Her manager meets her in the hallway and is like, he's gonna come talk to you, but just know he's gonna probably want to sleep with you tonight. And she's like, what? So then he ends up like meeting up with her and pretty much offering her like a severance package, and she's like, I'm not sleeping with you, because that's what her manager said. And he's like, ooh, this is a problem, because if you think I just want to sleep with you, no. This is going to look really bad. If you think I'm just trying to sleep with you and I'm going to pay you off for compensating you for firing you. And so she's pretty much caught in this little like dilemma of like, what do I do? One, I need the money. Like, my musician gig is not paying enough. I'm an asshole agent. Like, this is not working out. And so he pretty much offers not to give her the severance package. He ends up saying, I know somebody at another hotel chain who I will put in a word for you and he'll await your call. So that's pretty much what happens. She starts the new gig at this new hotel. And her new manager is kind of like trying to like set her up with Jonathan. She's like, can you go make a photocopy of the schedule? And then she goes and makes a photocopy, but then he meets her in the office and she's like, what are you doing here? And then there's obviously a lot of tension already. You could see a lot. This book does have 3 parts, so I've already finished part 1. This is part 1 that I'm talking about right now. That's pretty much as far as I've gotten. As of right now, this book is pretty spicy. A lot of stuff I haven't seen in other books regarding the spice. But we are not done with this book. We're 26% of the way, so we have a good amount of the book left. I'm really excited to see how this one progresses. I am not quite sure. I think she's going to be trying to progress her musical career through him. I know that she stated that she didn't want to do that. She's like, I don't want to leverage your connections. Like, we're not like that. Like, I'm not asking you to do this. Like, I didn't sleep with you so you could do this. So you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like interesting, but her agent is like, she's done with him. Like, he ghosted them for like a while. The band broke up. And she needs to like get out there, and she's tired of singing covers. She's like done with it. But she also has this roommate that she has to take care of, and she's kind of like cock blocking her. So it's like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So she's probably gonna try and figure out her own musical career on her own, and I don't think that's gonna happen. I feel like he's going to, I know a guy, or like, you know, like put in a word for her, because I feel like he's definitely got emotions going on. But we already know that he's like caught up with his ex-wife, and at the end of part 1 we see that she's like leaving his place, but his phone rings on the counter and she's like, who is this? And it's his ex-wife. And so she's like, what? And then she's like, okay, I'm leaving. And he goes and he calls her back or whatever. And so she's like, whatever, we're not like exclusive. This is no strings attached, kind of just one night kind of thing. So yeah, we're gonna see how complicated this gets. We're gonna see how emotionally raw he gets, because I feel like he's going to be a little bit more vulnerable. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. We're going to be reading this a little bit more. Hopefully I can get through part 2 within the next day or 2. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit more reading, and I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. About 50% of the way through this book. It is definitely getting really interesting. The spice is definitely another level. I would say I've not read a book with this type of spice. They're definitely playing the no strings attached kind of relationship. And we all know how the no strings attached kind of relationships play out in these kind of books, where they say, oh, it's fine, like, we're going to start off like this, it'll be fine, it's just, that's all we're here for. And then somebody gets attached. We can kind of see that somebody's going to get attached. But in my opinion, I feel like Jonathan is already really that attached. He keeps saying like he's not going to get there, but it genuinely seems like he's initiating a lot. She's accepting it. she's going along with it. She's not denying anything, but he's not making it any easier because he's saying like, oh, I got my shit with my ex-wife going on. Like, I cannot jump into a relationship. I can't give you the commitment. I'm, like tied up with the stuff going on with my ex. Which, by the way, she did him dirty. So I don't know why he's all caught up with that. But hopefully we're going to be learning a little bit more about why he's so emotionally invested with her, not willing to move on considering what she did to him. But yeah, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. I definitely can see that the spice is going to turn up a little bit. But yeah, we're going to see what happens. That's my little 50% update. I'm going to keep reading, and I'll see you guys towards the end of the book. So I finished the book last night, and I kind of forgot that it was like a 3-book series because I was like reading it and I was like, why is it like kind of, going up? Like, why is the tension increasing? What is happening? And then it ended, and then I remembered that it was a 3-book series, and I was like, damn it, what the heck? But anyways, besides that little, I don't even know what to call that. It slipped my mind that it was a 3-book series. But anyways, besides that, the book was actually really good. It is definitely not something I've read before in that sense. A lot of topics in this one regarding her friend Gabby, and I'm gonna not say anything else about that. But I think, I don't know, I couldn't really get into the book. It took me a lot longer to read this book than I expected. It was good, but it wasn't like my cup of tea, I guess, in that sense. Overall, I would say that the book is not bad, but for me personally, I wouldn't rate it very highly. So on my star rating, I would probably say it's a 2.75 or a 3, just because it's not my favorite. Like, I do love the romance aspect of it, but I didn't love all of it. If I'm being honest, it wasn't my favorite. And the story kind of bounced all over the place, which is kind of interesting. Like, how do you do that in a 360-page book? But it wasn't bad. If I were to rate the spice, I would definitely say it is a little higher up. Probably a 3.25 or a 3. It's very present in this book. You could tell it's very present, like in every chapter that there's spice happening, it's really detailed. But yeah, I don't know, I couldn't get over the fact that the spice and the storyline were like, they kind of felt separate. They didn't feel like that cohesive. I'm wondering if the next book is going to be better about that, but for this book it didn't like tie it all together. Like, I feel like the life stuff was really separate from the spice stuff, if that makes sense. I don't know, it didn't feel cohesive to me. That's pretty much my thoughts on this book. The next book I'm going to be reading off of my January TBR is called Tattered Lies by Lewis Rose. So I'm going to be starting this one. It is a shorter read. It's only 161 pages. So I'm hoping to get through this within today and tomorrow. So if you watched my January TBR video, you would know that this one is an arranged marriage romance. So if you want to know the full description of this book, it is in my January TBR. It's got mafia vibes, which I'm a big fan of. So we're going to get into this one. Kindle Unlimited says that people have rated this one a 3.7 out of 248 reviews. So I'm hoping that this one is really good, considering how short it is. So I'm going to get into this one in a little bit, and I'll catch up with you guys a little later. 50% mark. I'm at 61. I didn't realize how much I was reading. This book has been going by really quickly, but pretty much Vivian is the daughter of a mob boss, and she just married Lucas, who is a somewhat rivaling mob boss, so their marriage was kind of like a business transaction for the families. Pretty much she had the wedding really early on in the book, and then Lucas, her husband, went on a business trip literally the night of the wedding, and so he sent his older brother to take care of her and to watch over her. And then she's offered a job at this art museum, and she wants to take it because she's an art enthusiast. So she takes the job, and pretty much at this point we can kind of tell that Lucas is not a nice person. He doesn't speak to her nicely when they're on the phone, and Theo, his brother, doesn't appreciate how he's talking to her. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of a possessive and protective side of him. But yeah, it's really heated because it's his brother. Like, she should not be messing with him. But they both know there's some sort of attraction going on. It's really dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. If anybody finds out, or like if anything happens between Theo and Vivian, like, this could tear the families apart and start a war. So they have to be really careful about what they're doing, which I'm assuming that's where we're heading, because why would it be heading that way? But yeah, that's my little halfway update. I've literally only been reading for like an hour and a half maybe. So yeah, it's been a really fast-paced book, but I'm enjoying it a lot. I will probably be done with this by tomorrow. So I'll update you guys in a little bit. Chapter 13 just had a major plot twist. Yeah, that's all I have to say. That's crazy. That's like I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Yikes. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I don't know how this is gonna play out now in the next 19% of the book. It's 1 a.m. and I just finished the book. That last chapter was intense. It left us on a cliffhanger. I don't know how to feel about that. That was like everything just rushed in the last chapter, and now I have to read the next book to find out what happened. Anyways, overall, this book was really good. I literally read it in 2.5 hours. It was such a fast read. It was really good. I enjoyed this one a lot. If I were to rate this book, I would definitely say it is 3.5 for me, considering how short it was and the amount of context we got. I think we're going to find out more in the next book. So, yeah. Spice level in this one. There's only a few scenes in this one, but I will have to give it an extra rating just because the tension was very present throughout the entire book. I'd say it's a 3. I think the spice is a 3 for me. It's not over the top, but it is very sweet. So yeah, that's how I rate the spice on that one. I will pick up another book tomorrow morning, but it is late right now. So I'm gonna go to sleep, and I'll let you guys know what book I choose tomorrow. Okay, the next book I'm gonna be reading is called Numbers Game. If you've seen my January TBR, the full description is in that one, so go watch that if you haven't already. Pretty much this is a dystopian young adult romance book. I think it's enemies to lovers, but I gotta run to work now, so I'm gonna read this in a little bit. Alright, babes, I am halfway through this book. I was reading a lot at work, and I came home and I read a little bit more. So now I'm at 50%. So Trina grew up in this society that you follow the model, you follow the mold of what they want you to be. And when you graduate, you go to rating day. And rating day pretty much gives you a number of what kind of a person are you. Green numbers are higher and that's really good. Red numbers are lower and it's not good. And depending on what number you get on rating day is how society will treat you. And it's pretty much like branded on your forehead in like a glowing number. So there's no hiding what you are in this society. So Trina has been a pretty perfect person. She's a goody two-shoes. She gets her schoolwork done. You know, she like volunteers, like everything about her is exactly what they're looking for. And then it comes to rating day, and so it's her and her best friend and her boyfriend, and they go to rating day, and they're anticipating what's going to happen, because you can't date someone who has 100 points or more of a difference from you. So they're hoping that her and her boyfriend are within 100 points of each other. And what ends up happening is he goes first because he's one of the older guys of the group, and he gets his rating, and it's the highest rating they've seen for this area, this city, this town. And she's worried. She's like, oh my god, I have to get a high number too. And then it comes to her turn, and she gets the lowest number they've ever seen in this town. She gets 440, and no one has gotten below a 500. So she's in shock. She's like, what did I do wrong? Like, this is not right. This is a mistake. My parents are green, and I'm a red. She literally is a red. And they're like, nope, there's nothing wrong with the ratings. You're gonna have to put up with it. And the next day they were gonna get their assignments on what they were going to do in the society, pretty much. And she's like, no, I need to make this right. So she goes and she tries to make it right. She goes to the office of the guy who rated her, and she's demanding that he rechecks and does a, reevaluation of what she is. But he's not in his office. And then she sneaks down to the little council room where there's a big meeting of the Empress is coming. And the Empress is pretty much like the ruler of this world, pretty much. She has the highest score, and she's come to meet with them. And she sneaks in just to watch, and she's pretty much enforcing stricter rules and yada yada yada. And then she gets spotted by a guard because her forehead is glowing red because her number is bad. And so what happens is she ends up getting chased, but she doesn't want to go through the main door to leave. So she ends up following the Empress out the back door on the stage. And she trips and falls in front of her, and she's like, what the heck, who are you? And the Empress pretty much says, you're coming with me. And then she executes the guard that couldn't catch her. And she was like, wait, you don't have to do that. It's okay, it's my fault. This and that. And then the Empress is like, no. So she gets in the Empress's car. And she's like, you have two choices. You either go back and get your assignment as a red and work your way up back to a green, which is really, really difficult to do. Or you take my special assignment and you have 2 weeks to complete this assignment. I need you to find Spy. And she's like, do I get a choice? And she's like, no. So she gets assigned to Epic, which is the task force. And their job is pretty much to catch smugglers. And in this society, they don't eat food, they eat supplement pills, or nutrition pills is what they're called. And pretty much smugglers are people stealing food, real food, and they're giving it to settlements outside of the nice pristine cities. This task force is pretty much to shut down smugglers and to help the Empress pretty much shut down these settlement camps. But it's really bad. Trina's having identity crisis because she's like, I love this society and everything's perfect about it, and I just want my number to be green. But now she's like being forced into convincing kids to give up that their families are smugglers and then destroying families. So it's really chaotic. It's a lot of moral dilemmas for her. But we meet Vance, who is one of the leaders, like the epic task force. And he saw her during raiding day. He was in charge of like her section. So he saw her get her red number, and he doesn't really care because we find out that he's from one of the settlements, so he has a lot of history with that. And so I'm not going to spoil why he's bitter about this society, but you can find out for yourself when you read it. So yeah, she gets assigned to his task force, and he has no obligation to help her, no reason to, be nice to her, but he's kind of protective of her. He stops like his team members from making a comment and any of them from like advancing on her. So he's not quite sure why he's like protective of her, but he's like, I promise I'm gonna protect you. But not really, because she gets hurt in a mission. And she's like, you told me you had my back. And he's like, I don't trust me. Like, don't put your trust in me for that. But then the next mission comes, and then he's like, I promise I won't let you get hurt, because he saw how bad she got affected by that. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at right now. I know that's a lot of an update, but I did read half of the book already. I'm gonna go to sleep, but I will read a little bit more tomorrow. This book has been flying by. I'm actually getting really into it. I really do love these dystopian books. So if you have any more dystopian recs, go ahead and drop them in the comments, because I need some more dystopian or utopian books in my life. I did read this one book called Stitching Snow way back in like middle school. I actually enjoyed that one a lot. I might reread that one. But it was like a Snow White utopian kind of story. But I really loved that one. But anyways, it's a little off topic. I'm gonna go to sleep. And I'll see you guys in the morning. Alright babes, I finished Numbers Game a little bit earlier today, and let me just say, that was honestly such like a refreshing dystopian book for me, because I haven't read a dystopian book since I was probably like in middle school or high school. So that was like really refreshing for me to read. Overall, that was a great first book to the entire series. I definitely will be picking up more of this series. I'm not sure if it's on Kindle Unlimited. I'll have to check on that. But if it's not, I'm 100%, it will be worth buying for me, because like this was just a great start to the series. But pretty much, let me recap the book without spoiling anything. After the 50% update, it definitely went really quickly. We saw a lot progress for Trina. We saw a lot progress for Vance. We got to know them a lot better as to why they do what they're doing. I will say, since it is a young adult dystopian, kind of a fictional novel, the spice is really mellow in this one, but the tension is like perfect. It is like the right amount that you want to see in this kind of book. Trina is kind of caught between wanting to stay in the number system, wanting to up her rating, get the justice that she deserves for her rating. But on the other side, she's like getting closer to Vance and understanding why he hates the rating system and why it's not worth staying in. And there's a lot of things that happen that makes her like, you see the conflict in her mind that she's having with either staying versus leaving. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that without spoiling it. Overall, this book was so good. I think if you just need like a refreshing like dystopian book, or you're just in a book funk, or you're just not excited to read anything, this one was actually such a great read for me. I didn't think I'd get through it as fast as I did, but I sped through that book, and it was really worth it. And I'm probably going to be giving it one of the highest ratings I've ever given a book up to this point. So if I were to rate the book on a 5-star rating scale, I would say this one is definitely, I think it's definitely a solid 4, if not 4.25. It was actually such a great book. I actually enjoyed that one so much. If I were to rate the spice on this one, because it is a young adult, we have to like take into note like the consideration of what the audience looks like for this kind of rating. But it was not spicy, but there was tension. You could tell there was tension between Trina and Vance, and just like the banter of like how they don't really get along, but they get along when they do. It was like perfect. So if I were to rate the spice, it's definitely really low at a 0.75. So that pretty much sums up Numbers Game for me, and my ratings on that one. That will be the last book that I am reading for this reading vlog. So yeah. And with that, that concludes my January reading vlog. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you know when I post another Booked and Busy episode. Leave it down in the comments any books I should read, any new series I should start, any authors I should check out. I am reading on Kindle Unlimited, so that is where I get all my books from, so if there are any on there, definitely will check those out. So leave it down in the comments. If there are any books that you have for me to read for my February TBR, I am looking for more romance books for February because it is the month of love. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.